The GTA Online Los Santos Drug Wars update is finally here, and in today's video I'm going to be going through 10 tips to help you dominate the latest content. This will allow you to be more efficient in the way that you do things, unlock more content, and also make a hell of a lot more money. The Drug Wars update has a few moving components, with there being content which isn't available in the conventional way in which we get content as part of a new DLC. So hopefully these 10 tips will help you out. Firstly, you need to complete these 6 main missions. Now there is more missions on the way, but it will be drip fed content, and depending when you're watching this video, you may not be able to play through all of them. But the 6 missions that are available right now are essential because, well, it gives you a bit more of the story, you learn a lot more about Dax, plus also you will be able to unlock additional content which you can use as a business. You cannot unlock this until those missions are completed. Now we have already gone through these missions already on this channel, so if you do want to have a tutorial guiding you through step by step exactly what you need to do in all 6 of these missions, then there is a link in the description down below. They all take anywhere between 10 to 30 minutes in length, all dependent on the types of vehicles that you use, as well as how confident of a player you are. But one thing is for certain, they are essential for you to unlock the business. Number 2, do the setup missions for the acid lab. After you complete all 6 of the main missions, you will unlock the Brigade 6x6, but you will need to transform this into a move-in meth lab. To do this, you need to do the initial equipment setup mission. There are 3 different locations, but you only need to go to one of them. Inside is a warehouse where you'll need to take out enemies, plus also load up all the supplies onto the back of a truck. You'll then take that truck all the way back to the freak shop, where you've now completed that mission, but you're not done yet. You'll need to go to the back of the freak shop and talk to Mutt, who is a new character as part of this DLC. There you'll need to spend 750k. Now 750k isn't the most amount of money, but of course you don't want to be losing that. The good thing is with the 6 main missions that you completed, you'll have around about 500k, and it's very easy to make money back from this once you have the business unlocked. Once you spend 750k, you have now transformed it into the acid lab. You now have a move-in functional meth lab where you could be making a pretty decent amount of money. Tip number 3. Just like any business within GTA Online, you need to keep the acid lab supplied. These are done in one of 2 ways. You can go through and complete source supply missions. These missions are entirely free, but will take anywhere between 10 to 15 minutes to complete, and will only add 1 little bar to the amount of supplies you have at your acid lab. The other option is that you'll go to the back, talk to Mutt, and you will spend $60,000 in order for him to supply the acid lab. These supplies won't be added instantly, but it saves you time. It does cost money, but you can go elsewhere and find another activity which will be paying a much better return rather than you wasting your time. Regardless of whether or not you do the missions or pay money to supply the acid lab, you will be able to make money from it, even if you don't have the upgrades. Tip number 4. Make sure that you're boosting production every single day. Now this can only be once per day. You'll need to go over to your acid lab, go inside, and there will be a place in which you can boost production. You don't need to do anything fancy with this. It's not a mission. You don't need to spend money. You can just boost production. You just need to interact with it, but it can only be done once per day. That's once every 24 hours in real life and not once per day within a GTA Online day. Very similar to you only being allowed to spin the lucky wheel once per day. It's on the exact same system. Tip number 5. Make sure that you're maxing out the product for the acid lab. No matter if you're a solo player or playing with friends, you might as well wait until it reaches the max before you sell any product. With every single update that Rockstar pushes, they're thinking more and more about the solo player, and it's no longer the case of where you will need to take multiple vehicles at once. You can get the maximum amount of product, and once you do a cell delivery, you don't have a choice whether or not you want to do a Los Santos or Blaine County. It's just a delivery, and you don't have the option of selecting multiple vehicles. It's always going to be the same. So with all of this in mind, don't waste your time doing deliveries every single time that they're available. You might as well wait until you got the max amount of product, do a delivery once, sell everything, claim all your money, and let it build up again. For the normal deliveries without any upgrades, you'll be able to do a max sell at $237,600. It's going to take a few hours for you to max this out, but it's a decent amount of money. You'll be able to get considerably more after the upgrades. Number 6. It's worth customizing the Acid Lab. You'll be able to modify it by going to the Freak Shop and then talking to Mutt. Some of these upgrades can be fairly expensive, whereas others not so much. You just need to upgrade it in order for you to use it within free roam. If you're on a limited budget, make sure that you're trying to go for the armor or any other actual improvements rather than any aesthetics. There's some things that you will be able to do with this Acid Lab, which is fairly difficult. Life becomes a little bit easier, still not easy, but slightly easier once you've customized the Acid Lab so that it has more weaponry and more armor. Number 7. It's also worth doing the exact same thing with your bike. Customize your bike. The bike is used for deliveries. It's the only time you're really going to use it. And with these deliveries, some of them you'll have enemies chasing you, others not so much. But it's still worth going through and upgrading it as much as possible so it's faster, as well as you having more control with the handling. If you're on an extremely low budget, I would much rather customize the Acid Lab over the bike. With the bike, as said, it is used for the deliveries, but as long as you're doing it in an invite only session, even if enemies kill you, you're still going to be able to spawn back in, run over to your bike, pick it up and carry on with the delivery. Whereas with some of the missions with the Acid Lab, it can get very tricky really quick. And that's what brings us on to tip number 8. You need to take the Acid Lab with you on source supply missions. If you're going to be doing source supplies and you're not going to be asking Mutt to order in supplies, you're going to need the Acid Lab. You can enter into a source supply mission and then use the Acid Lab to drive over to the exact location. Normally there, you're going to have to fight off a few insurgents as well as other armored vehicles. The reason it makes sense for you to drive this over there rather than using any other vehicle is because once you've picked up the supplies, you need to drive all the way back to the Acid Lab, no matter where it's placed. So if you drive it to the location, by the time you've picked up the supplies, you can just walk 50 to 100 yards, enter your Acid Lab, and that's the mission complete. It is so much quicker. But for that to happen, because you're coming up to all of these armored vehicles and some are a lot more lethal than others, you need to make sure that your Acid Lab is fully armored. Otherwise, if it gets destroyed, the mission's over. That's why I recommend customizing it to make sure that it's filled with armor and it's got the best possible upgrades. It's also why it's more important than you upgrading your delivery bike. Number 9. Request work from Dax. Dax is the main character for the first dose missions. You'll need to go to him every single time in order for you to enter into them. He also plays a major role within every single one of the cinematics and also within some of the missions themselves. But these missions are just the start. Once you meet Dax for the first time, you will be able to add him as a contact. It's worth phoning him. If you phone him, you'll be able to request work, and this work is fooligan missions. These missions are great. They're very similar to what you have with Franklin, where you can do payphone hits, except these can be a lot more in depth, and there seems to be more of them. For some, they're pretty basic. You'll need to go and head over to a location and you're given a target to assassinate. You'll need to assassinate them and also retrieve any of the goods that they've stolen before, then take that back to a location whilst you're under attack. This can be completed within 5 or 10 minutes, but other missions will require you to be a bit more strategic, maybe even stealthy. One mission that I got required me to go all the way down to the docks, retrieve a Go Postal van, and then take that all the way over to Los Santos Customs, where I would place a bomb. I will then drive that Go Postal van all the way over to a local MC club, place that inside, and then I would need to stealthily get outside of that club without alerting any of the guards and then detonate the bomb. Yet again, a mission that only took about 10 minutes, but it was a lot more entertaining than me just going to a location, killing someone and then driving back the supplies. I'm sure at some point these will get repetitive, but as of right now, I'm enjoying going through them. You also need to go through these for 2 main reasons. Firstly, they pay quite a bit. You can get $100,000 very quickly. Unfortunately, they do have a 48-minute cooldown, or 1 GTA Online day. The second reason is once you complete 10 of these fooligan jobs, you will actually unlock the equipment upgrade for the Acid Lab. And that brings us on to our final tip of today. Tip number 10. buy the equipment upgrade. As said, you will need to complete 10 fooligan jobs for this, but this is the only upgrade available for the Acid Lab, which is locked behind you having to complete content, and it is the only upgrade which will improve the efficiency of your Acid Lab business. This increasing the amount of money that you can make and also does it at a much faster pace. Just like any business, it's worth getting these upgrades. And in all honesty, this is a win-win situation. If you complete the fooligan missions, you get 100k per mission. After completing 10 missions, you're gonna have $1 million. That is a decent amount. Plus, on top of that, you unlock the ability to buy into this upgrade, which will give you more money. It's a win-win situation. Anyway guys, those are 10 tips which will help you dominate the GTA Online Los Santos Drug Wars update. If you enjoy the content here, then make sure that you do hit that subscribe button. If you need a little bit extra help completing the 6 main missions that we mentioned within tip number 1, then I highly recommend clicking this video which is now on screen. This video will go through exactly what you need to do step by step within all of these missions so that you can complete them as efficiently as possible and ultimately unlock the Acid Lab. So click that video and I'll be over there to guide you through everything.